The moment I decided to go back, I was pulled right back into it. In a sense that I was confronted with young girls, about the same age I was,
Right.
still going through the same turmoils, losing parents, being worried about being married at a very young age. And they too were looking up now to me for support. And not because I was this bright, shiny person that came from America, but because I genuinely, truly understood what it means and it feels like to be where you have zero hope.
I love stories of resilience and redemption, watching a hero emerge through just such difficult circumstances and God getting all the glory. And that is today's story when you're going to get to meet my guest, Zahara, who is from Uganda and now leading a nonprofit. Just such a beautiful life and such a beautiful heart. And it makes me want to get involved with her organization and expose my kids to what her organization is doing in Uganda and touching the lives of so many little ones. So thanks for being here. I know you're going to be glad that you heard her story. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Generous Girl podcast. Today in our studio, we have Zahara McCoy, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of Children of Grace, which is a nonprofit dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty in Uganda through education, mentorship, healthcare, and Christian discipleship. And what I love about Zahara is it's her own personal story as to why she is currently in this role. And you are not going to want to miss what she has walked through, the angels that God has surrounded her with, and how God has provided in her life just supernaturally. And she has such a passion now of giving back as a mom of 3 young kids with her husband living up in Northern California. So welcome, Zahara.
Yes, thank you so much, Kim. What an honor to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you. And I'm going to do a shout out to Paul Gibson, who is connected with the National Christian Foundation and our California team. And I know he has faithfully served on your board and really supported Children of Grace for many years, he and his wife. And so I'm so happy for the introduction. And you and I were fortunate to already have a pre-conversation, but I would love for us to just start kind of at the beginning of you telling your story of what happened to you in your upbringing that then really led to the founding of this organization, Children of Grace, because it's all about, as we look at the 5 pillars of faith, family, fitness, finance, and friendship on this podcast, just the thread of faith, the thread of family, and what God did in Uganda, what he's doing in your family here in Northern Cal, but then continuing to do in Uganda through your life is just such a beautiful story and so encouraging. That's why I wanted to spotlight you in the new year of 2026.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It is a journey of faith. It has been a journey of what I do want to highlight in this particular theme of this topic today is sacrificial love. As you shared about family faith, to me, in my story, it really changes as you get older, as you become a mother, as you become a leader. But it always goes back to that sacrificial love where someone else stepped into my life. So I'll go back to the genesis of where things begin. Okay. As you listen in into what does sacrificial love truly look like and how do people live it out? Mm-hmm. So for me, it started in Uganda, East Africa, small little country, and grew up in what I'll call a rural village. It's a small little village called Mbiko. Had brothers and sisters, just a very basic family unit, African family unit. We'll run around the village, roam, climb mango trees, just really feel free. The childhood I feel I grew up really experiencing. And up until the age of 7, when my father passed away from HIV/AIDS, life became super difficult then because then all responsibility started to go back to my mother. She became a single mom and tried to raise 3 of us on her own. And at the time, we didn't really realize that we lived. When you talk about a village, you think everybody lives the same, right? There's not a comparison. But with that shift for her being the sole, breadwinner of the family, you could start to see the stress on her. So she pulled some of us out of my brothers first out of school. My uncles would try to help keeping me in school. And up until then, I turned 8 is when we learned that she was also diagnosed with HIV/AIDS.
Wow. And now we have medicine for that, right?
Now we have medicine, but back then there was no PEPFAR.
Right.
So it meant draining your entire bank account to stay alive. And at that time, also the mindset was that AIDS is a death sentence. So really became completely, our family was just, had no idea where to seek help, what to do. So she tried to scramble, got a bunch of loans just to sustain herself and keep the medication coming. Huge, big pills that she was taking. I remember them. Anyway, long story short, she was able to hold on a little bit longer, but as she started to deteriorate, she stopped taking the medication because it was very expensive. Then her body started breaking down. My brothers went to live with their uncles. I stayed behind and started taking care of her. Towards the kind of final ends, I don't know if you know this, but I usually compare HIV/AIDS to cancer. The way it breaks down your body, it's not it that kills you. It's more like the other infections. So
the cumulative effect.
Exactly. That takes you. So she was very badly off, bedridden, couldn't go to the bathroom anymore by herself. And I had heard of news around the village that there is people out there. At that time, again, remember, it's AIDS pandemic, there's orphans, millions of orphans all over sub-Saharan Africa. So there was news that there are people, external support coming in to help, what I'll call aid, but you have to put your name on the list. So when this aid comes into your village, make sure you are ready and you put your name on, because that's the only way to stay in school if you so desire to stay in school. And I remember they came to my village. I heard of news that this aid has arrived and they need to enlist children who are orphans. The predicament for me was my mother was not dead yet.
Right. You weren't officially an orphan, but you knew it was imminent.
So we had a discussion. She confirmed through non-vocal, gestures, and she just basically wept and turned her head from me to say, "You better look for other alternatives." And then I walked 8 miles, put my name down on the list with this aid organization that was coming to our village.
You were 8 years old walking 8 miles.
8 miles.
Like dirt road.
Wow. Yeah. But, you're in desperate need at that time. And I'd seen fellow friends and students whose parents had died. And I've seen kind of like the quick, rapid default of what their life becomes. I've seen girls who are once my friends now doing other things and going into prostitution and being married off very young. So the need for me to get support
very important.
Important. So I went there, they listed me, but I did not know that, because I had not heard that this enlisting of the name could come of something. I've never experienced or seen or heard anybody who's been supported, but it was just a bet. Just put your name down. Who knows? She then passed on October 9th, 2000. We buried her, and at the funeral, my brothers were taken in by my uncles. I was not picked by anybody. By default, I felt like the only place I had to go was with my mom's sister, my aunt.
Your aunt.
Yeah. She had struggles of her own, had 7 children. They lived in 1 bedroom. So I knew that me being there was not necessarily
ideal
situation. But I felt protection, at least being with another family in it for some time. And it became the typical Cinderella story. I would stay at home, take care of my cousins, and just pass on time like that. But in the evening, this is what is really interesting. In the evening, I would weep. I'll cry at night. And my cries were really prayers. They were not just tears of why me, what's happening to me. It was my discussions with God and asking him, what is my life going to be? Is this it? And it was like, do you see me? Do you know that the only person I had on this earth is gone. And who's going to look out for me? Those were consistent for 6 months. I would just, the moment the little candle would go down, I would just turn my head to the wall and just have these discussions with God. I've been faithful. My mom's the only person I had. Why the child prayers,
right?
the core prayers
that he hears every one of.
It does, and it really truly does. Because 9 months after my mother has passed, a group of people show up at the doorsteps of my aunt's house, and they're looking for me. They're asking, "Is Zahara live here?" My aunt says yes. And so they said, "Well, we're here to let her know that she now has a sponsor." Mm. My aunt was so confused. She said, "I'm for this." And I told her, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I did list my name, and wow, it came
really
through."
Worked.
Yeah. And they said, "Yeah, your school tuition is being paid at one of the better schools in our area. You hear the uniforms, the scholastics, pencils, everything. And all you gotta do is go to school, attend." And I remember looking at my aunt, and she pretty much had no choice and said, "Okay, go ahead." Mm-hmm. So the next day at the crack of dawn, I was more than ecstatic.
So excited.
Group, yeah. We went to school, and I started really wanting to make it known to whoever my sponsor was that I am really of value. I'm going to become somebody. So in the letters that we were required to write, I would share with her what my dreams are. I would even say, I used to not care so much about school when my mom was alive, but now that you are investing in me, I'm going to make sure you know that I care about school, and I'm going to be number one in my class. These are my little letters. Long story short, she, on this side of the earth now in America, she too had been just traveling, retired. She's a retired nurse. And I'd been on a plane with her husband where she read an article, a magazine, that was, the title of it was "The Death of a Continent." And that magazine just pretty much painted a picture of what the AIDS pandemic was doing to sub-Saharan Africa. And then she went to church, and the message there was, "What have you done with what God's blessed you with to bless others?" So she went that afternoon after church and started Googling about the AIDS pandemic. Mm-hmm. Everything kept taking her back to Uganda, this little country in the middle of nowhere. And she finally said, it sounds like this is where it's most impactful, or the AIDS pandemic is impacting most children. And it was. Uganda was one of the most hit countries in Africa for the AIDS pandemic. She found a little small CBO. CBO is a small community-based organization, and wrote to them an email, said, "Hi, my name is Marianne McCoy, and I would like to be of help. What can I do to help?"
And she was living in Northern
California at that time. Mm-hmm. And she got an email right away, and a response. They said, "Yes, we would love your support. Right now, what we want to let you know about is a young girl who had come to our office looking for support. Her mom passed away shortly ago." She said, "So how much is it going to cost for her to stay in school?" And then they wrote back to her and said, $25. She said, "Sign me up." So she had done this while getting my letters, and my whole MO in Uganda was, who could be this angel? Who could be this person who knows nothing about me, but cares enough to remind me that I'm somebody, cares enough to know that my education is a lifeline. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, but she didn't know all those things. She just really wanted to do good and be a blessing. She had no idea that her $25 a month was a world of difference for me.
Yes. No clue. Change your entire life trajectory.
She had no idea. She just really wanted support. And whatever that meant in her mind was, I would love to help this little girl.
Did you know English at this point?
No. I spoke English at that time. But it was like the basic things. I'll write, "I'm fine. I'm number one in my class. My favorite color is red," or something like that.
Sure.
But ultimately, what became evident to her was she started sharing with family and friends that she's sponsoring a little girl in Uganda. And they kept pressing on her to say, well, do you really know where the money goes? Or if they leave that little girl? There's a lot of funny stuff that goes on in it. And she said, well, you know what? Someday I'm going to go. But that someday came, and she asked friends and families they would like to go with her to Uganda. And no one. Yes. No way are we going to go in the midst of sub-Saharan Africa when there's an AIDS pandemic going on. Okay. But she, courageous as she is, and she decided she's going to pack bags and come. She came to Uganda, and she was met with a group of 50 people that were packed in a van with drums, traditional attire. This was the first white woman to ever come to our village.
Wow.
And
this is early 2000s.
This is early 2000. And with all the excitement going on, remember, I'm still living with my aunt, very timid. My confidence level was just through the trash. I had no self-worth. All I knew was that this is somebody who did something great for me, but they probably have no idea who I am at all and don't even care. I think they just did it just because they want to see, want to help. But when she showed up in this group of 50 people, she was looking around, searching for somebody, and came straight to me, hugged me, and said, you must be Zahara.
Wow.
Kim, my body just felt the love.
Yeah.
Everything I felt, I lost with my mother.
Mm-hmm. Right, felt seen, totally.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. And I just remember, again, I remember in my head thinking, God, you have answered my prayer. And at that time, she had no inkling about what the future was, or she had not shared her future plans for me yet. All I knew was she hugged me. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, gosh, God, you heard me. You heard my prayers. And in my heart of heart, I don't think I whispered it or said it, but I remember thinking, you brought me another mom. Mm-hmm. And that was in here, not vocalized at all. Long story short, her visit takes place. She is out in the communities. She's meeting my friends. She's met with my aunt, but she's very curious about me, what my likes are. And she said, wow, you did say you're performing well, but I didn't realize you're doing this great in school. And I said, oh, yeah, I am. She goes, okay, so what would you think about coming to America for your higher education? Meanwhile, again, I'm not speaking fluent English, but there's an interpreter.
Right, you've got the translator. Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, I just remember nodding, going, yeah. And, but, we didn't know the time frame, or she really meant it. It was just, she was just teasing to figure out where I'm at in life. And I just remember thinking, please take me. But she also was very interested in the AIDS pandemic, because she has a nurse background. So she was paired with another young woman in Uganda who was a social worker, and they would do these medical outreaches out in the community. And they will find outside the village. So you go, village, there's nothing, but you see massive land, right? And there will be pallets with women laying on them. Whenever you saw that, you realize that that person is on their way to the bed, basically deathbed. But for lack of material things, it's a mat.
Wow.
They will be laying out there in the front of the yard of the little huts, and family and loved one will be around them. So you drive through villages, and all you see is exactly that image. So their whole task was to go out and speak life and minister to these women and their families, and help them know that life does not end here on earth, especially if you're a believer, that God has plans for you, that God will, strengthen you and
hope.
Give you hope. Exactly. And so they did that for some time until Marianne was ready to come back to the U.S. And she shared with her friend now at this point, because they've been, paired up together, said, I'm going to go to the U.S. I don't think people understand what's going on here. I'm going to share with anybody who will listen to me about this. And she said, I'll be back. But when I'm coming back, would you like anything for me to bring back with me? And the friend said, no, I don't believe I'll be here when you come back, Marianne. Marianne goes, what do you mean? It's a few months. I'll be right back. And she goes, no, you don't realize, but I am also positive.
Mm.
It really took back this is a healthy young gal. They're out and about in the fields
Right.
teaching. And it never dawned on Marianne that she, next to her companion, was also
HIV positive. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So she said, yeah. And she said, well, you know what? And this lady, her name, she's young mother, 32. Her name's Grace. And she said, Grace, you are a believer. Why are you concerned about? And you look great. You look healthy. She goes, I know I do, but as you've seen, it breaks you down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Marianne said, but you're a believer. So don't worry. Just, rely on God. God is faithful. She goes, no, it's not about me, Marianne. It's about my children. Who's going to love them? Who's going to care for them? Who's going to nurture them? And it hit Marianne like a ton of bricks. Here we are concerned about, you'll be fine. But it was the
next generation. Yes, exactly.
So Marianne told Grace, I don't know what God has in plan for you, but, I'm going to be praying. And I pray when I return, you'll be here. And so she left, came back to California. 6 weeks later, she gets a picture with Grace's name on the tombstone.
Already 6 weeks later, she passed away. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Typhoid, malaria, it could be anything. It just comes like this. Mm-hmm. And if your system can't take it, you're gone. You're gone quickly. So Marianne also started sponsoring Grace's 2 boys, but that was also the genesis of the name Children of Grace. So when
the organization that you now lead.
I lead. So long story short, she brought me to the U.S. She was able to go through the paperwork, brought me here, educated me. But as she educated me and started out with this nonprofit, there was a lot of transparency, accountability, things that needed to be set up, and cultural nuances that she needed to work with. We worked closely together, but when God brought me here, I never really thought that the first thing would be to go back home. Mm-hmm. I had pretty comfortable life now. I had my own room, my own shower, everything a little girl could ever dream of, who came from nothing. And I thought, I'm gonna stay like heck and become a lawyer and go, Capitol Hill and change policies, being in international affairs, which is exactly what I did. But God has such an incredible way of doing things. I remember as I was my undergrad, I was very interested in African affairs, right? All the policies, because PEPFAR was one of the biggest things that tapped at my heart. I knew if PEPFAR had been signed off and was ready to go, my biological mother could have lived.
She'd still be alive, yes.
Mm-hmm. Could have. But that's not what God's design was. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of top-level policies that impact the grassroots, day-to-day human being.
Right.
I experienced as a child that really intrigued me about that area of focus. So one day I'm done with my undergrad. I've gone to Brazil. I've traveled all over the world trying to really get as much understanding of the human experience outside of the African world. What does it look like to actually pave way for real development? Not just relief. Relief put the plaster or plaster on a wound, but truthfully, I felt like as aid penetrated Africa, there were so many other issues that came alongside that as me being a beneficiary of that aid could really look into and address these key issues for the generations to come.
Right.
For myself, but I thought there was a lot to learn first if I returned back home. So I did that until I decided one day to return with another broad, big organization that I respected, and they worked in women issues and land, because land is one of the biggest resources in Uganda. So I worked with them for a year until I received a phone call from my mom, Marianne, who adopted me. She said, there's some issues going on in Jinja, Uganda, where I'm from. And she said, can you go take a look at it for me? The moment I decided to go back, I was pulled right back into it. In a sense that I was confronted with young girls, about the same age I was,
right,
going through the same turmoil, losing parents, being worried about being married at a very young age. And they too were looking up now to me for support. And not because I was this bright, shiny person that came from America, but because I genuinely, truly understood what it means and it feels like to be where you have zero hope.
Yes.
So my heart broke. There was a family of a childhood household that was there that I was confronted with, and the youngest was 2 and the oldest was 15. None of them were going to school. My first act there was to start sponsoring Mercy, to be to Mercy what my mother was to me. But then soon after that, I realized it's not enough to sponsor Mercy. I need to start looking at the real core issues, the family units, and what's really dragging these young people outside of the education piece. What does it look like to come back to Uganda, and what are the obstacles that surround this child from going to school but staying in school? That was a very unique situation. If it was not for that quick turnaround of sponsorship, number one, which is what the only reason I was not married off at a very young age.
Yes.
After that, having everything, my medical, my just all my needs were met truly, and then someone who genuinely loved me, and who said, "You are worthy, you matter." Those are all the components that saved me.
And she saw you, as we said.
She saw me. But had it only just been a sponsorship, okay, go to school. I'm 100% sure there's so many other things that could have gotten in the way of that.
Right.
I would not have stayed in school. There was too many other challenges. And so I started thinking about how can we design a program that really does look at the whole child outside of just education, but really what is the obstacles? What are the circumstances in their lives that really deter them from becoming who God intended them to be? And we started developing what we call a mentorship program that really wraps around the child. It's a social worker who takes care of this person, of this child, not only from a school standpoint, but from a healthcare, career guidance, and tackle things from a standpoint of the environment in which they live. Girls Can program, things that are every step of their, of their growth level, they'll be confronted with, in their communities, alcoholism, prostitution, children out of wedlock. How do you really address these while they're still young? Take care of them, see them for who they truly are, disciple them life on life, and help them grow and become real, confident human beings who deserve and truly understand what it means to be loved.
And have a future and a hope.
Hope. And then that is the ripple effect, because every child like me who makes it out turns around and becomes somebody different. You don't make those same mistakes, or you don't become a number in the statistics of what our circumstances are.
Right.
You do when you've known genuine love and are given the basics. You truly become better, not only to your own children, but to your entire community. And so we started doing that it's been about 25 years, have found ways to keep children in school. 99% of our students in primary level go on to high school. And the national is 25%.
Wow.
They don't.
And you have a good school there now in Uganda where they go.
Exactly. Then I've seen just about the same age as me, because we all started out that same time when the AIDS pandemic was rampaging Africa. But I've seen multitude of others who are same program as at the time I was, come out, graduate, taking on different jobs, becoming job creators in the African job market. And I think a lot of times when I address things like that, people don't understand, but there's a 75% unemployment rate in Uganda. And Uganda has the largest population in the world.
With many, as you said, have lost the parents, and it's just the young kids, like in Rwanda too. Without the parents. So if someone wants to get involved with Children of Grace, do you have it set up similarly to Compassion, where you're sponsoring an actual child, or is it more like they donate, through their NCF Giving Fund or their Donor Advised Fund to Children of Grace, and then you disseminate the funds?
Yeah, we do both. So child sponsorship is key. For me, it's what actually made me who I am today. My mother, just having that relationship of knowing someone out there genuinely cares and wants you to have a good future. and is investing in you is what made an impact for me. So one-to-one child sponsorship, it works. It works when the organization actually does wrap around. So for $50, that child gets a health screening and treatment if they need it. That child goes to school, has everything they require to be in school and stay in school. They get a
50
lunch,
a month.
50 a month. They get lunch, 3 lunches a day, because most of them come from homes where they go hungry. There is no food. You go to school, you go back home, there's nothing. How much can you stay in school on a hungry stomach?
You can't think.
No. So that 50 a month is stretched for the entire well-being of the child. It's to nourish them, to educate them, to protect them so that they thrive in the environment they're in. And so then that's the piece. For the higher net worth individuals, we do ask for school sponsorship because we do have our own primary school. We realize when you don't confront the levels of issue at a very young age of the children that we serve, and you don't get them between the 5 and 9 age group, they put them in an controlled environment where they're safe, then you're really missing the mark. Right. So our school really has given us the safeguards that we need to protect the children from the environments they come from. And it's also given us the leeway to be able to serve them fully in the sense of provide like the food. We're the only school that provides 3 meals a day in that area.
And how often do you travel back to Uganda to see the work?
Yes, 3 times a year. But since I became a mom, I've now knocked it down to 2 times a year.
With your 3 young kids yourself, yes. Exactly. Have they been back with you yet?
My son has gone back 7 times.
Oh, wow.
He's 8, and it's transformed his heart and his mind to know there are people out there in the world who don't have as much as we do here. It's made him very compassionate and very alert to his surroundings and the people around him. That's something I actually did not even in hindsight see when I was, coming here and then now becoming my own mom. I never realized how of a blessing that would be that I get to pass this on to my children, to show them mom came from nothing, but now here she is serving the same very people.
So it's so beautiful. And I think I'm a huge proponent of being able to try to take your children those places when they're young. I mean, obviously not too young, where it could be dangerous if they were so little, but we live here in California, both you and I, in Mexico. Like I could be there at the border in 40 minutes probably. And it's a whole other world. Just across that border, and it's an entirely different world than San Diego. And, so we had a lot of mission trips from our church here in Southern California that we could take the kids on. And I think these global trips, it just broadens the kids' minds to realize we are so blessed in this country with what we have. And until they see it themselves, you can talk about growing up the way that you did, but they don't get it until they actually go there. So what does that do to you living in Northern Cal? I'm sure, East Bay, pricey, you're around, I'm sure, people who haven't traveled and don't realize what they have. How do you like not deal with that, but in your head, is that hard sometimes to see like I saw this Facebook post, and this lady was complaining about this HOA association, and she was the problem because she was like, I have a Honda someone parked their Honda in front of her house, and she was all upset. And it was like, and it was a joke as to like the things that people spend their time on is sometimes nuts. But how do you look at that when, like, I'm sure you just see discussions and things when you realize if they could only see what people are living with in Uganda?
Yeah, the exposure of world travel, wherever you go, it's what I've found that I feel wholesome. Mm-hmm. Whenever I come straight from Uganda and come back here, versus when I had maybe not going for a while and then go there. By the time I go, it's almost like a rejuvenation of spirit.
And why are you doing what you're doing?
Doing what I'm doing because I'm designed. There's a saying that God break my heart for what breaks yours. I feel I'm most at peace with understanding when I'm feeling those heartbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at peace in the sense that I am in touch with reality, with God, what God designed us to be to each other. He created us
Yes.
to be relational. He created us to be each other's support systems. He created us to respond to these needs. The least of these, he said, do unto me, right? And it's when I'm away from that and I'm so caught up in my own bubble, there's an emptiness, a drainness that I feel of I'm disconnected.
Right. Right. And with
And
serving your true purpose. Mm-hmm.
it's not serving a true purpose. None of the things that we feel are so important in North Cal or elsewhere in more developed countries are as important as a child who's gone hungry for 2 days. And when you know you can meet that need and you are able to do it, not from an ego standpoint, it's just from where we design. If you're a mother,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a sister, if you're, we are people connected to other people.
Mm-hmm.
They hurt, we hurt.
Right.
I don't experience that when I'm here, but when I'm in Uganda, I tell people often when I go to those mission trips, when I host mission trips with people, I feel more myself when I'm in Uganda where there's scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it does is it helps with your perspective.
Yes. And
Start
the
to
gratitude of your heart. Mm-hmm.
come back here, you see your community, you see your blessings as so much more.
And the Honda park there would not be a problem.
You don't even think about it. You pass my diet. All right, thank you. And I would say that would save a lot of what Americans are suffering from.
Mm-hmm.
The fatigue, the individualisticness, our programs are so much bigger than us. The me my mindset, it is killing us internally because that's not how we're designed to be. We're
Right.
meant to care. We're meant to be serving others, and the more you do of it, the more you put it into practice with yourself, with your children, with your home, with yourself, the more you start to realize how meaningful and how fulfilling and how much a blessing it is in your life. So, I mean, when I come back here, the short answer is I don't compare myself, what people are doing, not doing. I just feel like there is something I can do to help my next door neighbor.
And that's all you're in control of. Exactly. Very well said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the little eyes of your children are watching you too and being transformed. So beautiful. Well, you're such an amazing story of resilience and perseverance and beauty with how God has just transformed what could have just been a really sad ending of, your life as this little 8-year-old girl. But he saw you, he heard every prayer, he captured every tear that you cried. And I just love that you're, still traveling back there 2 to 3 times a year. And you've got your own 3 young kids, your husband supporting him and what he's doing. And just all of it is a lot. And yet knowing that as you're doing it, it does make you feel complete and whole. And so before we transition to your favorite Bible verse and a book you're reading or a bargain, why don't we just make sure the listener is clear on if they want to get involved, if they want to do a monthly sponsorship, how would they do that?
Yeah, they go on our website. That's childrenofgrace.com. I also love for people to follow me on Instagram. I'm constantly there when I'm in the field in Uganda. I share little story snippets of the work, the day-to-day, the incident reports we get. It's a way for you to really see, like really kind of hands-on or right there, preliminary, what we do, why we do what we do, and the children we serve, where they come from. Why do we need to support them? And what capacity do we actually support them?
And what's your Instagram?
It's Zahara McCoy.
Okay. Zahara McCoy. Zahara McCoy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, it's so beautiful. And I'm excited to see what God will do through as you continue to lead this organization and continue to touch so many lives. And I'm excited that you're on this podcast and more people can hear about what you're doing and get involved. So thanks for your generosity and living just such a wonderful, beautiful, generous life with all that God has given you. And so what's your, would you say, life verse or favorite verse?
My life verse is Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, in everything through Thanksgiving, which we talked about, through Thanksgiving and prayer, present your request to the Lord. I go to that verse because I remember as a little girl doing exactly that. I was anxious though.
Sure, rightfully so.
But I really did present my request in the most authentic, most rawest sense, and he did answer. If we could also replicate that spirit of a young child, just really through Thanksgiving, present ourselves, especially with what's going on right now in the world.
Right.
I keep going back to that. Do not be anxious
Don't
about
be anxious. Yeah, he knows.
Yes, he knows. He truly was. As genuine as you could be, present your request to him and you'll answer. So for all our listeners out there, do not be anxious. Present your requests and he's there. He's carried me through. I'm a living testimony of what his faithful looks like. And I can't thank God enough. I really truly can't. And I see him using me every single day for other children too. He never stops. When he blesses, he absolutely blesses in abundance.
Yes.
Yes.
He's not a God of scarcity. That is for sure.
Never at all. So,
okay. And what about a book that you're reading right now?
I just share with you about that book. So the book is called The Good and Beautiful God. And it's by, I believe it's James Bryan Smith. It was just recently introduced to me by a mentor of mine. And I just love that it talks about just us learning what, basically how Jesus saw God, how Jesus really truly experienced God. And I'll try to bring that to us here. So in the narratives we have, when we talk about some of that I share with you, Kim, is just what we say about ourselves versus what the real true narrative is of who we are.
Right.
And
or the lies we tell ourselves and believe.
Yes. But him trying to relay back to us the truest of sense of what that true story is that God knows and believes of us. So it's just bring it back to the core, bring it back the foundation leading in into the new year. Just setting the tone for me to learn and understand genuinely what God's relationship was with Jesus and vice versa. And if I can learn from that so that I can better understand God through Jesus' perspective is something I want to start off and kickstart my year with.
I know. I think that's so great. It's on my list now too.
Yeah.
Okay. And the bargain, what bargain do you have to share with our guests?
Again, bargains. Talk about materials.
Yeah, we'll go from
that. Deal from
hard pivot.
Deals from anthropology. I think it's kind of a high end, but not too high, not unattainable. And now it just got put onto Nulu. I don't know if you know Nulu.
Oh, my children have Nulu. Yes.
Yeah. I go to that because I'm a working mom. Don't have much time to do or pay attention to my needs. So I go to that because of how flexible. At the same time, what I would say, if you talk about the generous world or the generous life, I don't like to waste things. So to me, it aligns with my philosophy on being subconscious about what my materials, my things are, and how I'm utilizing them and then recycling them for better use.
You're borrowing it for a month and then, you go to someplace cold. You don't need that kind of coat in California and you have a beautiful coat for the 30 days and send it back. It's brilliant.
Garden. I mean, there's no space in my closet anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So that I go to that because I'm always looking for ways to make it easy at this stage in my life with what I got going on. That's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Zahara, and God bless you in this new year of 2026 and all that God is doing through you in this role as CEO. And for the listener, go to her website or Instagram and follow her and who knows, maybe one of our listeners or more could go with you on one of your next trips to Uganda as well. So you're such a beautiful person, and this has been such a blessing. So thanks again for being on the Generous Girl podcast.
God bless you, Kim. Thank you for it.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Generous Girl podcast. We're so glad that you're here. And if you know of someone that you think needs to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out to us. New episodes are released every other week, and you can follow us on YouTube and on all platforms. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.